You're live.
Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate you taking your time to come and attend this project update. As the construction project began, we encountered some unforeseen circumstances that's forced us to change the original project schedule and the phasing. We had found shallow utility lines that made it impossible to upgrade the pavement like we planned. So we had to make changes to the Caldwell intersections of the major cross streets, which would be Acres, Linwood, Chenoweth, Demery, County Center, and Shady. So to talk about those changes, I'm going to hand over this presentation to Chris Crawford. He's with 4Creeks Engineering. He's the city's construction manager for the project, and he'll take us through the new project phases and the anticipated timelines. So Chris.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Go ahead and flip that slide in. Just a quick project overview. Fred already announced me. My name is Chris Crawford, work for 4Creeks. I'm a senior construction manager over there, and I'm just managing the construction project for the city of Visalia. So I'm kind of the main contact for the public right now. And Fred Lampe's the project engineer over at the city of Visalia. Just a couple other people like in the audience here. Nick Messia is assistant city manager sitting over here. And then we've got Eric Bonds, who's taken over as the project manager here really soon. He's also involved with a lot of the traffic signal stuff in city of Visalia. And I've also got, if anybody needs a Spanish interpreter, like we've got Patricia in the back there. So if you got questions afterwards, we've got Patricia here as well. And basically the next few slides, Fred explained a little bit, but we're just talking about some phasing changes we're doing to the project. During construction, kind of what we ended up finding is a number of the intersections where there's a whole bunch of shallow utilities, and it kind of made us change a little bit of the stuff that we're doing on the project. We're real fortunate that we at City had a good contractor on this project, and their name is Yarbs Grading and Paving, and we kind of went back and worked with them and asked them for, some options we could do to kind of, minimize the additional cost to the public for the taxpayers, and also just keep the project on schedule. And they came up with like a really good option that really saved the taxpayers like hundreds of thousands of dollars and kept the project on schedule. Like the only kind of change to the original project plan is that we're going to have some cross street closures, like 2 3-day increments per intersection, and it's going to be during the days when we're going to have to do that work instead of doing it at night. So that's kind of one of the changes that we're having to do on the project. Go ahead and flip that next slide in. Kind of remind everybody kind of the phasing for the project. Right now what we're doing is we're working on the west half of the project, so that's everything from Acres to Demery. We're going to work that part of the project almost to near completion and get that portion of the road opened up, and then moves over to the east half of the project. So what we'll do kind of now is kind of just run through the phasing changes, just so kind of the public is aware of all the phasing changes. The current phase we're on right now is that we're working on the outside lanes between Acres and Demery. So you'll see out there that those are currently closed. Next week, we're actually going to start doing the full depth reclamation with cement out on the roadway. So we're getting quite a bit closer to paving those outside lanes. All the kind of green arrows that you see on these presentation slides are intended to kind of show like the open lanes that are going to be out there during the roadway. So you'll see kind of at the intersections, there's like a dedicated left still, and there's like a through and right turn. So we still have, 2 lanes in a lot of the east-west directions. Timeline for this is current phase, we're like mid-March to mid-May. We're getting ready to start work on the intersections here pretty soon. Next phase is kind of the phase A, and this is kind of where we come down to having some kind of changes to the phasing out there at the project site. So after the contractor gets like ready to pave the outside lanes that we're working on right now, we're going to move through and do work on one intersection at a time. So the first intersection that we're working on is going to be Acres. And basically what's going to happen is that'll be closed for like a 3-day period. And we're going to go into the intersection, grind out the asphalt on the outside lanes, and then do the paving on the outside lanes along with the sections in between Acres and Demery. So it's going to be kind of a 3-day operation to get the paving like nearly complete, like from Acres to Linwood, keeping the Linwood and Chenoweth intersections open, and then it's kind of going to just move along down the road. So when we get Acres done, we get Acres open, we're going to move to Linwood, close Linwood, get that work done, move on to Chenoweth. So it's going to be staggered like that as we go along through the phasing. And right now we're expecting Acres to start on May 15th as we're going to start that work on Acres. So we're going to move that next slide in. In phase B, same thing. Once Acres is back opened up, we're going to move down to Linwood. All throughout this work, we're keeping the east and west lanes on Caldwell open. So when these intersections get closed like Linwood, like you'll still be able to go east and west on Caldwell, but it's just the cross street traffic that's going north and south that's going to be blocked by the closure. Phase C is just kind of moving on to Chenoweth and doing the paving work on the outside of Chenoweth, and then the paving work from Chenoweth to Demery. And right now, that work we're expecting to be a little bit closer towards the end of May. Phase D of the project, we're kind of getting back into some more of the normal phasing through the project. So after the Acres, Linwood, and Chenoweth intersections are opened up again, we're going to start working on the middle of the roadway from Acres to Demery, and they're going to be installing kind of the medians out there in the middle, also doing the street section work. And once we get done with phase D and we're just about ready for the paving, this is kind of the second stage of the intersection impacts to the major intersections. So once phase D is ready to pave, we're going to kind of do the same operation that we did during the outside lanes and go to the inside lanes on Acres, close those. That'll be about a 3-day closure to grind out the asphalt and to repave the asphalt. So when we do these closures, go back one real quick, Henry. When we do these closures, Acres won't be able to cross the intersection as an example, like in this scenario here, but there will be right turns allowed onto Acres and right turns like off at Acres. So, and we're going to continue just kind of going through each intersection kind of in that same format. And right now we're expecting kind of the intersection closures to start around end of July. And once we get the intersections done, we're gonna do the top lift paving on kind of the mainline streets. So we're kind of just gonna like continue to kind of work through the roadway. Go to the next slide. And then kind of the next two slides are the same thing. It's, once we get Acres done, we're gonna move to Linwood. Once we get Linwood done, we're gonna move to Chenoweth. And hopefully, go ahead and go one more slide. We're hoping by beginning of August, we've kind of got all the paving done from Acres to Demery, and we're really down to like really minor work, like striping work and just some utility, like raising utility manholes and some stuff like that. So I think one of the big things for everybody here is just the takeaway is that, the section of the road for Acres to Demery, we're expecting to have the construction pretty much complete and the traffic impacts be done about the beginning of August, which if everything works out, would be great because that's about when the schools start back up and everything. So I think the city's like planning that pretty well. We're working real hard to try and make that happen. Kind of moving on to the second half of the east half of the project. The second half of the project is from Demery to Shady. That'll include the Demery intersection, which will probably be a pretty big impact. But go ahead and go to the next slide, Henry. First phase H is going to be the outside lanes of the roadway. Going to be kind of really similar to what you're seeing out right there out now on the roadway, where we're going to have one through lane in each direction on Caldwell open. And we'll be working on that until we get ready to pave, and then we'll kind of move on to start doing some impacts to the intersections. So phase I is kind of, I'll just use that as the kind of example for the rest of them here. Phase I is, once we get the outside lanes ready on the outside of the road, we'll move into that Demery intersection, take the 3 days where Demery is going to be closed in north-south direction, do the grinding, do the paving, and there will be like east and west like traffic open on Demery during that time period on Caldwell. And we're expecting that right now. It's probably end of September to beginning of October, but the timeline gets a little bit rougher, like when we get a little bit further away from where we're at right now, just because there's always unforeseen things that come up. So these are kind of real approximate timelines right now. One of the things we are going to do that I didn't mention earlier is when we do have, like, for example, let's say County Center cross street being closed, is that the city signal techs are going to put that signal into kind of like just a green mode for east and west traffic. So it should allow east and west traffic to move like relatively quickly through the intersection to keep everything moving. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And phase K is kind of just the outside lanes on Shady. So this is kind of going to be the end of kind of the major intersection impact while we're doing the outside lanes. And then we'll kind of move on and work on the inside lanes just like we did on the west half of the project. So phase L is kind of just rebuilding the inside lanes, and that's kind of just the normal phasing that we've got out there at in the original part of the project. Like we'll be doing like the medians out there in the intersection, doing the street sections out there. And once that gets like ready to pave, then we'll be moving through and then just going ahead and closing down each intersection one at a time again. And then have our kind of 3-day closure period and just finish each one like one at a time. Go into that next slide. So the phase M portion is starting that intersection work. So again, we're going to go through each intersection. Middle of Demery is going to be closed. People will be able to like right turn off Caldwell to Demery or right turn like from Demery onto Caldwell. But that middle of that intersection will be closed, so you won't be able to cross it. And then, yeah, we'll just start tiering, kind of doing the top lift paving like in each section as well after we get the intersection work done. We're hoping, go ahead and hit that next slide, Lynn. So we'll kind of just move through the roadway and we'll go through these next slides like relatively quickly. So we'll go ahead and hit the County Center intersection, get the top lift paving done, get the Shady intersection next, and then it will be pretty much ending the project. We're hoping right now that we can get to the ending of the project like around December. Like we're hoping to get a lot of the paving done before we hit like a lot of the wetter weather in the winter. But we're gonna have to. Connor's gonna like working right now to try and figure out ways to pick up some days on the schedule because we got a lot of rain this year that really affected construction. So one of the things that we're facing a lot this year just because of that rain is that it affected a lot of the aggregate sources for the asphalt plants. It backed up a lot of construction projects. There's like a whole bunch of emergency work that contractors are having to do right now and agencies are having to do right now. A whole bunch of like flood repairs. So it really made keeping projects on schedule really difficult. But the contractor and the city have been working really hard on this project to try and keep us on schedule. So we're like really hoping we can get this stuff done before end of December. And just some items to like note on here. And this is really similar to the last presentation, but construction schedule I've already said a couple of times, but all the dates that we've kind of shown right now are tentative. Some of the best ways to like keep up to date on the project I'll go over in the next slide. Coordination efforts. We've done a lot of ways to like keep connected with the project and just kind of stay up to date on what's going on. Traffic impact and delays. We talked about that, but we're still hoping to end this project like around December, which is pretty optimistic at this stage just because of all the delays we've had because of the rain. But Connor is really working hard to try and keep that date. Go to that next slide, Henry. Just a couple of ways to stay up to date on the project. There is a website that you can kind of go to. It's caldwellshady.com up there on the screen. One of the really the best things that we can do to keep the public informed is that text update to the phone number up there. Because what we're doing right now is that, we try to catch everybody the day before we're going to do a major traffic impact and just remind them for example, tomorrow, we have to put the Demery intersection in all-way stop because the contractor is going to be working on some of the signals out there. So at 8:30 a.m., we're going to have the Demery intersection in all-way stop. But what we did earlier this morning is just text everybody that's on that text update list so they are aware of it, so they don't get stuck in the traffic out there. So that's probably the best way you can keep up to date and kind of avoid the kind of major impacts that we've got going on the project. There's also a 24-hour hotline that the contractor has set up on there. That's this phone number. And there's a lot of things all this stuff is on the City by Celia's Facebook page, Instagram, 4Creeks Facebook page, Instagram. So there's just a whole bunch of ways to kind of keep up to date on the project. And also, if it's really construction specific stuff, I've been giving my cell phone number out to everybody. So, if you got questions that are really specific to the property you own or something that you're really specifically concerned about or we need to coordinate with, my cell phone number is probably the best way to kind of get something resolved. So feel free just to give me a call anytime. And we can work with the construction crews to get the issue taken care of and get response to you and things like that. And I think that's pretty much kind of the majority of the updates. So short summary is really just effects to the intersection mostly, it's to simplify the whole thing. And then we'll kind of open it up for questions now if anybody has questions related to the project. If you got some really specific questions specific to kind of your property, we got a number of city staff here and myself, and we can kind of take those after the fact too if it's something that's real specific to your property. But we'll go to open it up for questions. Go ahead.
Are you going to put bicycle lanes?
Yeah, there are going to be a number of bicycle lanes out there on the road. So yeah, in different locations. So and right now also the project includes kind of finishing that sidewalk that's on the south side of the road. So by the time we're done, we'll have a pretty continuous sidewalk all the way from Acres all the way down to where we stopped the project over there at Shady. So it should make it a lot more accessible for bikers and pedestrians too. Good question. Anybody else? Do you want to talk to Eric afterwards, or you have another question?
No, I got another question.
Okay.
What are the paper plates that have 20 on them?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the question was, what are the paper plates that are sticking up in the air along the roadway out there? So the answer to that question is, when we go and build new roadways, it's really a simple process, usually for a subdivision, and all the street slopes are 2% because we're in a brand new site. So a lot of the things that you see out there, when we're going along these existing roads, the cross slope on the road has to change kind of as we go to match a lot of the existing conditions. So what you see out there is kind of the cross slope that the contractor wrote for his guys, out there, so that way the guys on the equipment know what they're supposed to be doing pretty much. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, great. Appreciate everybody coming out. And if you got other questions, feel free to stay afterwards and we'll talk to some of the city staff or talk to myself about the project.